Let's talk about engines. Skoda Kodiaq, which was sold by official dealers outside the European Union, was offered only with 3 power units. These are 2 petrol TSI and 1 TDI, 1.4 TSI 150 horsepower, CZDA. The base engine is a tiny 1.4-liter with 150 horsepower and belongs to the EA211 family. Supercharging is provided by a Japanese turbocharger, producing as much as 1.3 bar of excess pressure. This engine has an aluminum cylinder block, a timing belt drive, 2 phase shifters, and an intercooler built into the intake. The module consisting of a cooling system pump, 04E121600B, and 2 thermostats is driven by a separate belt, 04E121605E. It sounds very scary and complicated, but the truth is that this engine is very reliable. The VAG concern did not make any additional additions along the way. The belt-driven 1.4 TSI immediately turned out to be reliable. Up to 200,000 kilometers can easily be managed only by changing the oil and consumables. It doesn't consume oil at all. The timing belt needs to be changed every 120,000 kilometers. Now we will announce information that will make the haters go crazy. The 1.4 TSI engine easily runs more than 500,000 kilometers. In our latitudes there are copies with mileages of more than 700,000 kilometers without a hint of major repairs. What do you need to know at this point? On Kodiaqs with a 1.4 TSI engine, the dual-mass flywheel often had to be replaced. If something rattles at idle, and if the tone of this sound changes when electrical consumers, ears, etc., are turned on, then you will have to prepare for replacement. The flywheel itself costs $500, $415,070,210, plus labor to replace it. Even the 1.4 TSI, CZDA, belt engines on any VAG model surprised with a sudden loud clicking noise. It appeared and still appears at 2 to 3 years of engine life and later. This clicking and rustling noise comes from a screw unscrewed from the exhaust camshaft phase regulator. When there are a few turns left before it is completely unscrewed, it begins to touch the aluminum timing belt casing. Sometimes unscrewing the screw is accompanied by oil leaking out of the phase shifter. Under warranty, dealers replace the entire phase shifter. In general, you can buy a new screw, N105464003, or a complete set of 5 pieces, change them all using thread adhesive sealant. 1.4 TSI ACT 150 horsepower, CZEA, 1.5 TSI ACT 150 horsepower, DADA, DPCA. If the Kodiaq was imported from Europe, then it can be equipped with a 1.4 and later 1.5-liter engine with a cylinder deactivation system. On the valve cover they will have 2 boxes, actuators, 04E906048A, for the cylinder deactivation system. All these motors are a new stage in the development of EA211 engines. So far nothing bad has happened to them. 2.0 TSI 180 horsepower, CZPA. The second engine available on the official Kodiaq is the 180 horsepower Turbo 4 of the EA888 family, Generation 3B. The motor with the designation CZPA is exactly the same as on the second generation Tiguan. However, he came to Kodiaq with the bugs corrected. This engine has a timing chain drive. You need to pay attention to the chain after a mileage of 150,000 kilometers, it stretches here. This engine operates on the Miller cycle. Unlike Japanese engines with a short compression stroke, this VAG engine has a short intake stroke. The intake valve closes and interrupts the filling of the cylinder with air until the piston reaches its lowest point. This particular version of the engine has been produced since 2016 and has proven itself to be excellent. True, lately there has been a problem with CZPA Turbo 4s. The oil seal may break off from one of the valves, after which, when opened through such a valve, oil will flow into the cylinder by gravity. Naturally, there will be a glut of oil that has never existed before. But such cases are very rare. 2.0 TDI 150 horsepower, DBGC, 2.0 TDI 177 horsepower, CRGB, 2.0 TDI 190 horsepower, DFHA, 2.0 TDI 239 horsepower, CUAA. Gasoline engines for Kodiaq are over. Let's move on to diesel ones. Official dealers sold only one modification of the 2.0 TDI engine, 150 horsepower. More powerful and faster modifications of this turbo diesel were available in Europe. In general, this engine also lasts more than 500,000 kilometers without problems or investments. During the warranty period, the timing belt on diesel engines was changed. One of the rollers was defective. but there were no cases of belt breakage. Replace the spark plug relay. This diesel engine has a timing belt drive, which needs to be changed every 120,000 kilometers, although in Europe the same belt is changed at 210,000 kilometers. And the vacuum pump of this engine together with the oil pump, 04L145-208H, are located in one block under the crankshaft and are driven by a wet-toothed belt, 04L115-264A. Is advisable to change it every 240,000 kilometers, i.e. every 2 timing belt replacements. DQ250, 02E 6 Street preselective gearbox. Let's move on to automatic transmissions, or rather, to branded DSGs. The Skoda Kodiaq never had any classic automatic transmissions. The 1.4 TSI engine comes with a wet 6-speed DSG DQ250. This is an excellent and very durable transmission that has proven itself well. Every 60,000 kilometers it needs to change a special oil, GO52182A2, you need 5 liters. Each 1 liter jar today costs about $50. You also need to change the oil filter, 02E300505-1C. The original one will cost $25. DQ500/0 DL7 Street preselective gearbox. 2-liter engines are equipped with another wet DSG, 7-speed. This DQ500 unit has been considered the best among its kind for many years, but by the time this unit appeared on the Kodiaq, it became a little buggy. In particular, rare failures of clutch pressure sensors occur. Naturally, there are 2 sensors. When one of them mistakenly begins to detect insufficient pressure in the clutch, the transmission will go into emergency mode and stop engaging either even or odd gears. Under warranty, dealers change the mechatronics. Today, pressure sensors are sold on a well-known Chinese marketplace. True quality is not always pleasing. It's better to take a few in reserve. The same oil, GO52182A2, is used for maintenance. Only 6 bottles are needed. Filter, 0BH325183B, its seal, N91084501, and a pair of O-rings, and 0138132 and 0438092 for plugs. Our copy is front-wheel drive, but that won't stop us from talking about all-wheel drive. On all-wheel drive Kodiaqs, the 5th generation Haldex coupling is responsible for connecting the rear axle. There is a maintenance schedule for it. The oil needs to be changed every 3 years or every 30,000 kilometers. The drain and fill plugs are located on the passenger side. Do not confuse them with the plugs for the rear gearbox, which are located on the driver's side. When replacing, you need to remove the electric oil pump, 0CQ598-549, and wash its filter screen. To install the pump, you need to use new screws, N105-540-05, and O-rings. They are sold in one set, 0CQ598-305, or $30 to $40. The filler N90281802, and drain, N91082701, screw plugs also need to be used new. That's what the instructions say. Refilling will take about 650 milliliters of special oil, GO65175A2, costing $100 for 850 milliliters of the original. There are several good substitutes that are 4 times cheaper. Let us add that today a not-original repair kit is sold for the electric motor of the Haldex coupling pump, which includes a commutator and a pair of carbon brushes. They will have to be replaced when the mileage exceeds 200,000 kilometers. Kodiaqs with a diesel engine stopped by dealers to replace the flywheel to crankshaft bolts. The fact is that the adhesive sealant of these bolts began to leak oil very early. This oil seeped out at the junction of the engine and gearbox. The situation resembled a leak on the rear crankshaft oil seal. Under warranty, in accordance with a special service bulletin, TPI 2,043,567/6, dealers change the bolts, sometimes on all-wheel drive Kodiaqs, the Haldex coupling and bevel gearbox, transfer case, split. Many owners of these crossovers complained about a knocking sound in the suspension, but upon careful diagnosis, it turned out that the steering rack was knocking. The reason is standard: wear of the rack bushings. If the rack suddenly knocks, it can be easily repaired by replacing the bushings. Under warranty, the rear brake pads and even the discs were changed on the Kodiaqs because, with a mileage of about 20,000 kilometers, they jammed and stood crooked. Because of them, noise appeared when braking. The inner pad of the rear right wheel was especially problematic. Due to its incorrect position, the brake disc wore out unevenly. After this, there should be no problems with brakes and pads on these cars. The Kodiaq suspension is fine. However, with runs of 50,000 kilometers on some cars, the rear silent blocks 5Q0407-183E of the front control arms burst. The original silent blocks cost $40, and the front ones, which have not yet worn out, 5Q0407-182, cost $30. Ball joints 3C0407-365B, 3C0407-366B are replaced separately. Their cost ranges from $10 to $80. Front stabilizer struts 5Q0411-315A can last 100,000 kilometers. Their price ranges from $7 to $45. But you will have to buy bushings for the stabilizer only aftermarket ones. They cost up to $12 a piece. The rear suspension has 4 levers for each wheel. You can buy separately only the lower silent block 5Q0500-5553A of the axle and the silent block of the trailing arm 5Q0500-5541A. Each bottom costs up to $20. All other silent blocks are offered as non-original ones at prices ranging from $5 to $20. There are also non-original complete levers on sale. Front wheel bearings 8S0498-625A sell for $60 to $260 for originals. Rear hubs 8V0598-625C from $50 to $250. In general, the suspension of the huge Kodiaq cannot be called complex. Essentially, it is the same as that of the Tiguan, i.e. crossover C-Class. In general, there are no complaints about the body of the Skoda Kodiaq. The hinges do not sag, the locks work properly, and the seals do not fall off. In this regard, everything is good. But the owners note that the paintwork is scratched quite quickly and easily and is pierced by literally every stone that hits. The paint around such craters does not swell, although the hull itself may become covered with a red coating. Literally all Skoda Kodiaq headlights sweat slightly. They are covered with perspiration from the inside after each wash. Appears only in cold weather. True, after 20 to 30 minutes they dry out. During the warranty period, Skoda dealers and importers reported that this was normal. Headlights were replaced under warranty only if yellowness appeared from inside the headlights. As a rule, it formed near the outer boundaries, i.e., near the wing of the lampshades. Many Kodiaq owners have noticed that the hood hinges are loose. There were no unfortunate cases of hinges coming off, although in rare cars, at very high speeds the hood began to vibrate precisely because of the play of the hood hinges. In general, it's worth tightening the hinge fastening screws once, just in case. Let's add that there is no insulating material on the inside of the Kodiaq's hoods. It can be purchased separately. There is both original insulation, 565, 863, 831, and several substitutes. Even under warranty, a defect in the left headlight washer was corrected on almost all cars. After operation, it turned a little along with the lid and did not close completely. They say that the culprit is a piece of plastic flash burr on the body of this injector, which causes the injector to rotate. The sections of the lights that are built into the trunk lid often contain midges and small specks. And all because the backside of the housing of these flashlights from the factory has a hefty and uncovered opening through which these same midges and dust get into the housing. Under warranty, dealers blew out the lights and installed foam rubber plugs 565945177A into their housings. The Skoda Kodiaq is memorable for the fact that the rear door glass can burst at random and fall into the trunk. As a rule, such a surprise happened at night. Most of these cases occurred during the warranty period, so the glass was replaced under warranty without any problems. However, the rear windows on Kodiaqs still crack. Please note that this most often happens with glass from the manufacturer CZDA, and much less often with AGC glass. These began to be installed later. The saddest thing is that, under warranty, no one will replace the broken glass on your Skoda. A new rear window for this car from CZDA costs about $210, and a new AGC costs about $290. Even under warranty, the trunk door release button was replaced on these cars because it failed due to moisture getting into it. Judging by the catalog numbers, there is an improved revision of this button 8W8827-566C, but its purchase will cost $200 because it is sold together with a rear view camera and a wiring kit. And water can get into the button in a hand wash if the washer directs a stream of water at it. The Skoda Kodiaq is equipped with a variety of assistance, including an automatic braking system. There are no widespread problems with electronics, although electronic units were still replaced on some cars. Questions are raised not always by the adequate operation of the automatic braking assistant. There are many false alarms in absolutely harmless situations. There are recurring cases of adaptive cruise control glitches, which are suggested to be solved by charging the battery or replacing the steering column switch with cruise buttons. Often the blind spot assistant stops working for a while. During the warranty period, The engine start button was changed on many Kodiaqs. It was because of it that the engine started almost the 10th time. Literally all Kodiaqs have had creaking internal door handles that creaked when touched, grabbed, and during vibrations while driving. They were later replaced under warranty with new, less squeaky handles. In general, the problem can be solved. You need to remove the top trim of the door handles and glue it or its base on the door card as much as possible with Madeline, fluffy electrical tape. You can also glue the top fastening screw with anti-squeak, i.e. make a puck out of it. In general, the owners themselves consider the cup holders to be the most epic failure of this car. They can only be used if the central armrest is raised. In addition, the cup holders themselves are cramped and deep. The cups of coffee in them stand close to each other, low and literally under the elbow of the driver and navigator.